It's been datamined and essentially confirmed that Giovanni is going to come at us with a Shadow Mewtwo during the Day 2 special research for Pokemon Go Fest. I can imagine it won't be an easy fight. At the very least, this will probably be one of the most valuable Pokemon for us to have in the game, so let me hopefully prepare you for it. We should look at Mewtwo's typings and weaknesses and all that. The formula for rocket battles that you can't beat, I always say, is this: Pokemon that resists the attack of the opponent, more important that it's the fast attack, while dealing super effective damage. So in this case, you'll want to resist the Psychic that Mewtwo throws at you, since its fast attacks are both Psychic type, and here are those types that resist Psychic: Steel, Psychic as well, and Dark. So let's look at some Pokemon that have those types, but can deal super effective damage against Psychic, since that's Mewtwo's only type. And so the super effective against that would be Bug, Dark, and Ghost attacks. If you're following me, this means that you need a Steel, Psychic, or Dark type Pokemon that can do Bug, Dark, or Ghost attacks. So let's see some. No particular order here, just some ideas. Tyranitar, Bite Crunch, although I just hope that you've got it powered up, because it does take longer than you think for Bite and Crunch to fire off efficiently, and Mewtwo would have a chance at one of its charge moves possibly, depending on which one it's got. But Tyranitar does have the double resistance to Psychic types, and of course Larvitar has been available in the Research Breakthrough reward for July. Interestingly enough, Mewtwo itself with Shadow Ball. But keep in mind, Shadow Mewtwo will resist the Psychic of your own Mewtwo's fast attacks, so just know it'll be all about that charge move. On that note, Reuniclus with Shadow Ball. Maybe give it Hidden Power as its fast attack, since the only other one it can have is Zen Headbutt, Psychic type. Mr. Mime is the same case, but I don't know that you'd pick it over the other ones that we're gonna mention. Darkrai, Snarl probably the fast attack you'll want, and whether you've got Dark Pulse or Shadow Ball, you'll be positioned pretty well. Shadow Ball usually is superior, where Dark Pulse will be slightly weaker. I mean, Shadow Ball's insane, you guys. Again, sticking to that same note, we also have Giratina Origin Form, Shadow Claw, Shadow Ball. I would say squishiness could be a factor. Chandelure might be okay, Hex and Shadow Ball, but to maybe go back to some dark types, you could go with Weavile with Snarl and Foul Play. Just power up, and like several of these, watch for Mewtwo with Focus Blast as the charge attack. I could see Shiftry being pretty spicy with a double resistance to Psychic if you've got the full dark moveset, Snarl and Foul Play at minimum. We had C-Dot Community Day and all. I guess going down the line, possibly Alolan Muck if you don't really have a lot of other options. Snarl, Dark Pulse. Scizor is an okay option. It's mainly for that spammy moveset with Fury Cutter and X-Scissor. The Steel type obviously going to resist Psychic. So these are just simply some of the suggested Pokemon, definitely not every single last thing that you could use. You just have to convert these basic principles to apply to other Pokemon that you have of those types, and that deal damage within the super effective types. So on screen, you'll see some simulations via just a trainer battle, my account and my dad's account. The sad truth is that these won't be especially accurate, because Shadow Mewtwo will likely have a CP somewhere in the probably 16,000 to 19,000 range, depending on your trainer level. That's just a complete guess, could be wrong. Shadow Pokemon also have an attack boost at the expense of their defense, which we can't really replicate with Mewtwo at the time of this recording. Anyway, this can still at least show us the power of some of these different typings, resistances, super effectiveness, all of that stuff. You see that we're starting off with the Mewtwo versus Scizor battle right here, and again, this is just between me and my dad. Just keep in mind, any of this can be variable. You know, we don't know what Shadow Mewtwo is actually going to end up being like exactly. One thing that we can say, of course, is that this actually may not be accurate right here, is that Giovanni will have likely used up his shields. I'm assuming most of you guys will have burned off those 2 shields, because he will absolutely shield the first 2 charge moves you throw at him, and you still got to go through Persian and whoever his middle spot Pokemon might be. And so anyway, Scizor right here will just show you kind of a little bit of what Scizor can do. Now, the other thing to remember, and this is a good thing, is that Mewtwo, as a Shadow Mewtwo, will probably not have Psystrike. Psystrike Mewtwo just in the normal game, you know, that's like broken. We shouldn't have to worry about that. I don't think that Shadow Mewtwo is going to have like any legacy or I guess event specific moves or anything like that. But just as a demonstration, you know, you can imagine that obviously with the attack boost, you know, a Psychic coming out of Mewtwo would probably be just like this. And you could see that Scizor, it did hang on actually after taking a little bit of damage, but I can tell you Scizor definitely going to be one of your more weaker options as far as the HP. It's just going to be a little bit squishy. And honestly, if the Mewtwo happens to have confusion, I think that that is going to change things a lot. Just imagine if you've ever taken on Alakazam from Sierra. You know, she has the Shadow Alakazam with confusion. If you've ever faced something like that, you know the power that confusion can have, dude. So as a Shadow Pokemon, and especially the ultimate life form Mewtwo, it's gonna hurt. So of course, Darkrai, another decent option, and you know, we did mention that, like, hey, Dark Pulse, that gives it stab, but the power of Shadow Ball, you guys, you gotta see this now. This Mewtwo has taken a little bit of damage, but that would almost be a one-shot, and clearly, once again, we do need to remember, Shadow Mewtwo gonna be much higher CP, much more powerful in general, I would say, so please keep that in mind, but just, you know, an illustration of what Shadow Ball can do. And speaking of that, we could see an entire team of Mewtwo's going up against Mewtwo right here. I'll always find that as kind of an interesting matchup, and some people actually recommended Mewtwo to go up against Mewtwo in raids, you know, when Mewtwo was the raid boss in Pokemon Go. And so again here, the key is, of course, it's going to resist the fast attack that your Mewtwo has no matter what, because it's psychic, of course. But we should note right here, of course, with that resistance, you know, confusion obviously is going to break through a little bit right here. We can see that on that right screen, you know, that Mewtwo has confusion. One move that Shadow Mewtwo is going to be able to have will be Focus Blast, and that's going to take out some of your dark types. But if we just kind of replay that right here, you can actually see how many times does Mewtwo need to hit before it will charge up Focus Blast. The idea is that you hopefully KO the Mewtwo before it gets that move off. So depending on the energy generated and all that, you can see here on the replay, it's actually going to take 7 hits with confusion before it'll generate enough energy for Focus Blast. So now let's try to imagine, you can see on the left screen right here, this Mewtwo is going to attack with Psycho Cut and have Psychic as the charge attack. So Psychic is the one that Mewtwo can have that will charge up the fastest, because all of the other ones hit really hard but take a lot more energy to generate for that reason. So let's find out here the number of Psycho Cuts that are needed to get off that Psychic attack. So it's actually going to take the same number of hits. It's going to take 7 without any hits being taken against it. And that's because Psycho Cut, it will generate energy slower. Most often, you know, a move that takes longer, hits with more damage, it does generate more energy. Now that's not to be taken as like a complete gospel blanket statement, but that's just generally how things work. So let's see a Mewtwo on the right screen using Psycho Cut. How much time is it going to take for Shadow Ball to generate up? I can actually spoil it for you. Just like Psychic, it's going to take 7 hits. And you guys know the deal about Shadow Ball, man. So you're going to definitely want to try to fully charge that too. But look at this, Mewtwo hitting another Mewtwo with Shadow Ball. Just kablamo, you guys. It's insane. So not a horrible matchup to think about if you've got a really powerful Mewtwo yourself with Shadow Ball. So you're obviously seeing right here, though, of course, if your Mewtwo has confusion as opposed to Psycho Cut, I guess we'll just say it. On the left screen, that one has confusion. On the right side, that one has Psycho Cut. You can obviously just see the outpacing of damage that confusion is going to do. Hits harder but slower, but man. And like I say, that Shadow Mewtwo, that confusion attack is going to take a huge chunk of damage, you guys. So definitely, it could be the difference in some cases. So what can we do about that? There's a Pokemon's evolution. It's been in the research breakthrough box. That's going to be Larvitar's evolution of Tyranitar, of course. Tyranitar will double resist Psychic. It's also got the bulk to kind of withstand a lot of Psychic type punishment. And so we're seeing here actually Bite, you know, just as an attack with Crunch for Tyranitar. That's the moveset that you would want going up against this Mewtwo, but it does take a decent amount of time to generate that energy for Crunch. So one thing you can, of course, prepare for is just try to generate some energy beforehand, you know, on Giovanni's first or second Pokemon. Just get a little bit going up against that. And obviously, once again, we'll just say it for the record, Shadow Mewtwo likely won't have Psy Strike, but look at this. Tyranitar can even resist that, and this is not the most powerful Tyranitar I have in the box, dude. It's at that 2300 CP, so even below the Ultra League cap. The point being, if that Mewtwo is going to throw Psychic at you, the charge move Psychic, I mean, just look at what could happen if we, just in this, you know, somewhat faulty simulator, sure. And I don't want to charge this Crunch up all the way, just because we do want to account for the fact that that Mewtwo that we go up against that Giovanni could have, it's just going to have sheer bulk to it compared to a 2600 CP Mewtwo that we saw on the left side. So that's why that Crunch I didn't charge up fully, but it still gets the job done. It'll take a chunk out. So very nice option, you guys. Definitely consider Tyranitar. I know not everyone's going to have the candy, so that's why we're showing off multiple options right here. If you did happen to get enough candy, and this would have been a kind of in a limited scope or whatever, but when they were releasing Solosis Reuniqueless, as well as Gothita. Maybe, maybe not, you got your hands on a Reuniqueless, right? So we mentioned that as just kind of a lesser option to go up against the Shadow Mewtwo. Now, let's see. We'll see what kind of hits it can take. Of course, again, just please remember this is Psystrike. Somewhat useful comparison in the fact that the Shadow Mewtwo will deal 20% more damage than a normal Mewtwo, and it's going to be at a CP that's really, really high. And so Reuniqueless right here will send out a Shadow Ball, and you see how devastating that is for Mewtwo. So once again, great move to go up against Mewtwo with. So obviously, even with that resistance, it doesn't double resist or anything. Reuniqueless. This one's a bit below Ultra League, so you can see where that's at. Now, Alolan Muck, a potential chance for you guys. A lot of people might have been using this in Ultra League in the early days as that meta was unfolding and everything. Definitely unlike the Kanto version of Muck, the Alolan one adds that Dark type for a little bit of resistance to Psychic. So this is just kind of another option down the line. Give it that Dark Pulse. You can see what that's going to do right here. We'll give it a whirl. I think unless you've already done a lot of damage, you're probably not going to one-shot the Shadow Mewtwo with it. But the point being, it took a nice chunk out of it. So I'm sorry I don't have both screens perspective, but I guess it's not really required on this last demo right here. But Weavile with the Dark moveset was another option. Weavile does have pretty good DPS with this, so you'll see right here a Foul Play get triggered and used for going up against Mewtwo. You'll want to power up a decent bit, and again, just keep your types in mind because Mewtwo does have a chance for that Focus Blast, and once again, the idea will be to try to take that Mewtwo out before it gets something like that, because that's, you know, that's a massive charge attack that will likely one-shot whatever you're sending out of it, especially considering the Mewtwo will have already done damage to you to get to that point. So unless your Tyranitar was just like newly sent out, of course Tyranitar, I think it would fall to a Focus Blast from Shadow Mewtwo even at full health, but I'm just saying, these are the things to watch out for. Now, Giratina Origin Form, again, I'm trying to recommend you guys lots of things because I realize not everyone's gonna have it, but look at this, Giratina Origin, you can see even before really getting off a charge move, it's already done a lot just with Shadow Claw on its own. So you can also see it resists pretty well, and I'm gonna let it fall right there so we can send in our last Pokemon, which is gonna be a Shiftry right here. Now, this Shiftry, I actually didn't even have one in my box that would have Snarl as the fast attack, so I can't even demonstrate that right here. But do notice some of the flaws that it can have, of course. I mean, I'm showing it off at a Great League level, $14.99. Hopefully, if you choose this going up against Shadow Mewtwo, you're gonna have the right moveset, of course. Mine at least can demonstrate what Foul Play is gonna look like coming out of a Great League Shiftry. Once again, don't take it as literal gospel, since this Mewtwo's only 2652 on its CP. And you can see Shiftry still takes a decent chunk of damage from Psychic. It's not gonna one-shot it unless you send out a Great League Shiftry against a Shadow Mewtwo, then it probably would get one-shot tapped. So I think if we can just kind of summarize the last little points about all of this, that resistance is definitely important to resist psychic moves, but it's also important that you hopefully can shut down that Shadow Mewtwo before it uses one of its charge attacks, because it's going to be devastating. You know, if you can find Giovanni on the ground or wait for a different balloon or something, and you're just really having trouble, maybe wait for one that has Psycho Cut as opposed to Confusion as the fast attack. But I think you guys can do this. Just realize, if you're equipped, if you got them all powered up, it's going to be probably smooth sailing for you. But I know a lot of people have been saying, you know, Giovanni has been tough just kind of leading up to this, no matter what the lineup was. So I do just want you to be prepared. I'll be streaming GoFest Day 1, but probably just making a video of Day 2. But the end screen that's going to be on screen for you is going to have the Giovanni playlist for all Giovanni fights of the past, so you can look at all the middle spot Pokemon he's had so far. Hopefully they won't spring a new one on us. Maybe you could prepare your party for that. And of course, I'll catch you guys on the next vid. Good luck, and thanks for viewing.